Hello everyone. We're going to look at the keyboard today, and we're going to use this synthesizer keyboard. You can use a piano keyboard or even a paper keyboard like the one I made available in our Etudes website to determine whether two notes are a whole step apart or a half step apart. Now I hope you have already memorized the names of the white keys on the piano. And I made this handout. This handout is available in the resources section of our website. It's called Keyboard 3 Octaves, I think. You can download it and print it up, and it's great to use if you don't have a keyboard like this at home. One thing about that handout, I mentioned a couple places in the website that you should not do what I've done here. You see all those letter names? Writing the letter names in might seem like a good idea, but here's why it's a bad idea. You're never able to name notes on a keyboard like this that doesn't have the letters written in. If I want to name notes here, I have to use these 3 group and 2 group and 3 group and 2 group black key groups as landmarks to find out where each note is. And one of the ways we learned to do that was to start by memorizing where D is. Everywhere you see a 2 black key group like this, the D is the white key that falls between them. That's a 3 black key group, so we'll skip it. Here's a 2 black key group. D is the white key between them. Once you know that, you can just use your knowledge of the alphabet and say, okay, if that's D, if I move right, I'm going higher, getting higher, and I go forward through the alphabet. So if this is D, that's E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and back between a 2 black key group. All right? If you use a keyboard like this with the letter names written on it and somebody says, where's an A? Your eye is going to go right for that letter A, and you're not even going to pay attention to the 2 black key groups and the 3 black key groups. Okay, so this is a bad idea. This blank keyboard and a little time is a much better way to go. Okay, so that's what we did a couple of weeks ago to introduce the white keys of the keyboard. Now what we're going to do is we're going to learn 2 of the most basic intervals called a whole step and a half step. And once we have some knowledge in that area, we'll be able to figure out names for these black keys, which we haven't really talked about that much yet. So the way I've introduced it in the web lessons is to say that when 2 notes are a whole step apart, there's going to be 1 note or 1 key on the keyboard that falls between them. Let me demonstrate that. I'm playing 2 notes here, a C and a D. When I play those 2 notes, I could talk about the interval or the distance between them, C up to D. Is that a whole step or a half step? Well, the way we're going to determine that is when I play the 2 notes together, do you see 1 key that falls between them? It's this black key, right? If I play C and D, there's 1 note that falls between them, this black key here. So that is a whole step. Here is D and E. And again, there is a key on the keyboard that falls between them. So D up to E is also the distance of a whole step. Got the idea? Let's jump around a little bit. Here's a G and an A. What do you think? Whole step? Is there 1 key between them? Yes. A and B? Yeah, there's a key that falls between them. That's a whole step as well. Let's jump back down. Here's an E and an F. Is there anything that falls between those 2 notes? No, there's not. That is a half step. No note between them, it's a half step. 1 note between them, it's a whole step. What about these 2, B and C? Anything between them? No, it's a half step. Okay, so I'll just jump around and play a couple, and you tell me whole step or half. Whole step. Whole step. Half step. Seems pretty easy, right? But now let's take it the next step further. What if I'm asked, like you are on worksheet 3, I think it is, to write a note that is a whole step higher than D? We see the note D on a staff, and then we're asked to write a note a whole step higher. Most of you, since you're beginners, won't know by looking at a musical staff what note is a whole step or higher, higher than a D. But if you can play a D, and then figure out on the keyboard, okay, whole step higher means I'm going to skip one note, and when I play the D and this new note, there should be one key between them. So the note that is a whole step higher than D is this E. Got the idea? Let's try again. Here's a G. What note do you think is a whole step higher than G? It's A. G up to A, there's one note in between. All right, here's one. B and C. Nothing in between those two. We call that a half step. If there's no note between the two that we're playing, or the two that we see on the staff, we say that distance or that interval is a half step. Here's E and F. Half step. Got the idea? I'm going to throw you a curve here. What if I were to play this C and the black key right above it? Now, we don't know the name of this black key. Maybe you do if you read ahead. But can you tell me about the distance? Is the distance between those two notes a whole step or a half? Whole step, there should be one key in between them. Half step, nothing in between. It's a half step, right? Nothing in between those two notes. Same thing if we do this. I'm going to play this black key and the G right above it. Can you see? A little hard to see from this angle. But there's nothing between this black key and this white key, G. That's also a half step. What if I were to play E? We already know from E to F is a half step, but what if I were to play E up to this black key? There's one key in between them. It's a white key, but there is one key that falls between them. I'm peeking through with my thumb. There's one key that falls between them, so that is a whole step. If I go from this black key to the next black key, there's a white key, one white key falls between them, that's a whole step as well. So again, to review, if there's one note between them, it's a whole step. Nothing between them, it's a half step.